you learn more and you get better by just doing it and making videos and posting them. You don't learn by attempting to do it and then just scrapping the whole thing because you didn't like it.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into the Why Influence podcast, where we interview influencers about their why and their motivations for influencing. I'm your host, Jeremy Segal, and today our guest is Nick from WILLY FPV. He creates videos in the FPV drone racing niche. That's first-person view drone racing. On YouTube, Nick has over 1.3 million views and over 21,000 subscribers. He brings a unique perspective because he had a very low barrier of entry and created content for a couple years and then brought more of his personality and really drastically changed the style of his influence. It's a little bit of a different entry point into social media influence, and we'll go into that in more detail. Let's just jump into the interview. Until then, enjoy the beautiful intro music.
Welcome to the Why Influence podcast, where we deep dive into the why behind some of the world's most influential people. Why do you influence? Why are you an influencer? We hope to inspire you to share your voice with the world. And now, your host, Jeremy Segal.
All right, Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show. Before we jump into your why, I'd like to ask a few questions so our audience can learn a little bit more about you.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your personal and professional background?
Well, start off, my name is Nick Willard, and I'm a professional drone racing pilot for the Drone Racing League. I am 23 years old and a new graduate of aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech a couple months ago. And I am attempting to try and find a nice medium of using my aerospace engineering degree and kind of mixing it with all this drone racing stuff that I've kind of been thrown into.
All right. And so your social media presence is mostly related to the drone FPV stuff. So it's my understanding that your social influence is not your main focus. So do you mind explaining your relationship with your social channels? Like, is it a side hustle, or do you see it becoming something someday, or is it a hobby, or do you mind explaining that?
I'd say it's a half and half, honestly. I mean, it's not my absolute most pressing thing. It is something that does generate a little bit of, I guess, side revenue, and I really enjoy doing it, but it's definitely not like my full-time occupation is trying to be, social media influencer. But I do have a decent following, especially in the FPV drone community. And so, I feel like I've got a good bit of knowledge and skills behind me, and I like to share that with everyone. And it's fun and it's really engaging, and the community's pretty awesome. So, it's just something that I enjoy doing. And if something bigger comes out of it, then I'd be glad to go along with that.
Okay. Yeah, I like that mindset. So before starting your YouTube channel, what was your social presence like?
I didn't really have one. It was more just like, I guess, the standard average person's. I had a Facebook, I had Instagram, just kind of used it for friends and family and stuff like that. But once I got more into the drone stuff, I started sharing more and more drone videos on my social media platforms. I made a YouTube, and then, kind of after a couple years of trickling in some views and stuff like that, I ended up getting a decent following, and then my social media presence kind of swapped over to more of a more professional, I guess, business-oriented style social media stuff.
Okay. So then what prompted you to start posting these videos and, taking selfie, talking head videos along with it to, sort of put yourself out there? What prompted you to begin this journey?
Well, I mean, it first started off for I've been flying about 5 years now. And the first probably 3 years was just me, just slapping some clips from my FPV flying together and putting them up on YouTube, more so just because I like sharing my progress as I kind of continued flying. And I had a bunch of friends who I'd fly with, and we'd all make videos and post them up online. And it was nice to kind of have something out there so at least I could track my own progress and kind of see how it's going. But then other people started catching on. Other people kind of liked how I flew. And so I ended up just posting, I guess, more and more flight videos. I'd go out and I'd make an effort to fly more often, to go ahead and post more footage because things were kind of picking up. And then I kind of realized that, people can only watch so many FPV drone videos. And I also realized I had a knack for video editing, and I had a pretty good on-camera personality I developed, especially when shooting with the Drone Racing League. And, I wanted to kind of challenge myself a little bit more and make, I guess, more engaging videos with more of me in them rather than just the flying. And so I went ahead and did more vloggy stuff and informational stuff. And it, really just kind of started taking off from there.
Okay. So about 3 years of time was spent just creating videos and posting them and sharing your progress. Then you started taking it more seriously. And then at some point during the journey, you decided to bring more of your personality into the mix and start doing some more vlogging and higher engagement type stuff.
Yep. And then recently, at least in probably the last 6 to 8 months, I've probably done a lot less, vloggy stuff. I've done, a lot more of the informational, tutorial-ish, not really tutorials, but I guess sharing my information that I have and the knowledge that I have with others, because there's a lot of new people getting into the hobby, and there's a lot of people who've been in it for a long time, and it's a very, very steep learning curve to get into this, and there's just so much information and little tips and tricks out there that has no home. There's no way to find these things out unless you just happen to stumble across them. So I've decided recently I've been sharing a lot more stuff like that, and I've really enjoyed stuff along the lines of that, because I really like helping people and teaching people stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff I've picked up on in my time that it's really nice sharing with people. I mean, even little tips and tricks here and there that, help people out a lot. I get people messaging me all the time like, oh, that one little thing you said in the video totally helped my flying, tenfold, and stuff like that I really enjoy.
Awesome. So I'd like to ask you a question then. Do you consider yourself as someone with influence?
Yeah, I definitely say I'm someone who has influence, and it's cool, but it's definitely a responsibility that I feel like I have now, because I have some influence over other people, and especially in the community of the hobby that I love to do, and the hobby that's basically supporting me now. So I like to try and give back to the people who are basically helping me basically live my dreams.
All right. So then, was there a moment when you realized that you were an influencer in your eyes, or, is there a moment in your mind that you recall that you're like, oh, wow, I actually am having influence? Or any examples that come to mind when this became a reality for you?
I don't think there was any big defining moment. It was a very slow process that developed over the span of 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
The largest jump that I saw, though, was when I kind of swapped over from doing just flight videos and then doing over more vloggy style stuff. But I did more, I guess, comical style vlogs. I think it was a lot more, funny and lighthearted than it was serious at the start. And that's when things started to take off. And I kind of started realizing over the span of a couple months that, people actually listen to me and people actually care what I think about. And that was kind of the point where I realized it's okay, well, I guess I can just go ahead and start sharing some other knowledge and other stuff that I have, and sharing my adventures that I, do going around the world to everyone. And it's just kind of been trickling up ever since.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because most people I've talked to so far have been able to identify a moment that they had that realization, but yours is sort of a slow process through the journey. And it sort of makes sense because you were creating content that's more visual and not as much your personality. So maybe in the early days, people were watching and just maybe learning some tips from your flying styles, but not necessarily as much of a feeling of having influence until you brought more of your personality into it.
Yeah, exactly. Before, for the, especially when you're, even to this day, just sharing flight videos and stuff like this, all you get is people just cool flight, that was a great flight. I like the thing you did here, I like the thing you did there. But it was never kind of I really want to know how you do this, or watching you do this made me realize that I can do something like this as well. So it was until I kind of started bringing my personality in where things kind of started taking a different turn.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. As far as barriers to overcome to start building your influence? I know your barrier is probably a little bit lower than the standard, which is you're sort of posting this creativity and art style videos of your FPV flying, and then you sort of transitioned into vlog style and bringing personality. But during any part of the process, did you feel like there were any personal or physical barriers stopping you, or something that you had to overcome to start posting online or to start sharing your journey?
For just posting and sharing the flight videos portion back in the start, it was more so just for funsies. So, it was kind of like something I just enjoy doing. I love going out and flying. I love kind of just like sharing some clips and stuff that's done online. So it was all kind of really natural, but it was really difficult for me to start getting into like the vloggy stuff. Talking in front of a camera was something I dreaded. I'm so bad at it, especially when I'm by myself. I don't know, I choke and I overthink. I stutter on everything. I say and okay, well, because it's such a disaster. And it took me, probably 5 or 6 attempts to just get a video shot where I could at least cut out most of the crap and make it seem like I knew what I was talking about. And I really struggled with that for probably 6 to 8 months before I kind of really got a system down and, how I'm going to say things, what I'm going to talk about.
Well, what's one of the strongest things that you figured out during that journey that helped you overcome that faster? Or do you have any tips that could help other people that maybe struggle with that?
The biggest thing that I accepted and that I rolled with and that people seem to love was that I just got to the point where it's like, well, I'm not fantastic at talking in front of the camera, so just kind of like embrace the stupidity of everything.
Right.
And it's like if you just if you act natural, even if that's stupid and messing up a lot and sounding like a moron, you seem genuine, and people like genuine, not amazing and epic and stuff like that. You could sound like the smartest person on earth and whatever, but if you don't seem genuine, people don't really like it. And so I really just kind of focused on just, in the moment, doing everything I felt was right, even if it meant messing up and saying dumb things. I'd go back and cringe at watching in the editing process. But, it was me, and it was genuine, and people could tell, and it really helped a lot.
Okay. So for someone who's looking to start sharing online that has this barrier of not feeling comfortable posting, then a tip for them would be it's more important to just be yourself and be vulnerable than it is to be perfect and try to get something that's perfect out there.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been a big proponent that perfectionism is the killer of creativity. Nothing I have ever done has been perfect, and I embrace that. And, it's just go ahead. You learn more and you get better by just doing it and making videos and posting them. You don't learn by attempting to do it and then just scrapping the whole thing because you didn't like it. There's really not much that you ever learn from that. So really just sucking it up and accepting the fact that you may have people out there who may make fun of you for looking like an idiot. But again, they're just, people on the internet. I guess one of the things I think about is I just kind of assume that those people aren't real. It really helps with not really caring at all what people have to say, because it is one of those things where it is really, really easy to just like rail people and make fun of them on the internet, just sitting behind a computer. And as long as you realize that they're just random people on the internet who feel like they have some power and are trying to enact on that by making fun of others, then you can just kind of discredit their opinion and whatever they think and just kind of get on with your life, get on with making stuff that you enjoy doing.
I like that. I've never heard anyone say that before. Assume that the people on the internet aren't real. So I'd like to break out your influence into two different parts. Like the first part is you sharing your FPV footage online, and then the second part's sort of your personality and vlog style of influence. And let's focus a little bit more on the personality and vlog side of the influence. When you think about before you did like the personality and vlog style influencing to where you are today, what parts of you have changed from before you started doing that to who you are today?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the things is I've become a lot more self-motivated, better at kind of going out and doing things on my own without having to be told what to do and how to do things. That's probably the biggest thing, because, all this stuff, since it's not exactly like my day job, my life and career doesn't depend on this. it is something that you kind of have to like go out and be able to self-motivate yourself to do stuff. And especially when I started doing more vloggy, stuff like that, actually having to talk in front of a camera, it was hard to get myself to do it. But once, I kind of just learned to suck it up and just really kind of get the motivation and energy to do it just because, over time with a lot of hard work, I kind of really got a good work ethic down from doing stuff like that.
Do you see a lot of those skills being transferred over to everything else that you're working on? Like, do you feel like you're more confident speaking in front of groups, or, is any of the skills that you're learning through this influence being transferred into real world?
I'd say definitely like the self-motivation and stuff like that is becoming something that has been translated through to other things that I do now. Honestly, I thought I was going to be like a lot better at, say, talking in front of groups and, being super confident in front of cameras and stuff like that. But I don't think that those have gotten any better, because I still feel the same as I did before. But the only thing that's changed that I kind of just embrace whatever idiocracy that I'm doing, whatever I feel like I'm saying.
Okay.
Rather than trying to think that, no, now I'm going to sound better. Now I have the skills to do things more perfectly. Still feel like everything's the same. I just have a different mindset going into it.
That makes sense. All right. So you talked a little bit about how you've made little comments and videos and people have contacted you and thanked you for sharing those points and how big of an impact it's made for certain things. But is there like a memorable story about someone who's contacted you that you've influenced that you'd like to share?
I don't think there's any one specific one, but there have been quite a few people who have messaged me after I release, like some specific, like, I guess, informational videos or some stuff where I kind of reveal some more secretive tips that like professional pilots, stuff like that do. And I have quite a few message me saying that, like without that kind of information I've given out, they were really struggling with certain things. And, now that I've kind of exposed some certain tips and tricks and stuff like that, that it's really, really helped a lot of people. And, that's kind of something I've really enjoyed doing, is that there's a lot of stuff out there you kind of have to know if you want to, like, for example, just making like good looking flying videos. There's so many things you kind of have to know on top of just having the skill set of being able to pilot an FPV drone well to actually make a video look good. And that's a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about. And, people always message me saying, oh, like, thanks, that video you did about lowering your rates, or, this trick you learned with the filters and stuff like that. Really, I've been troubleshooting these issues for months on my drone. And all I did was just, I threw that filter setting in that you said you use, and now everything is totally gone and flies like a dream. So, it's stuff like that I really enjoy, because I've been in this situation at the start where, I'd be like, oh God, I think all my videos look like they're terrible. I look like I'm totally out of control and I'm flying. My drones don't fly right. There's vibrations everywhere. And, you kind of get to the point where it's like you have an issue, but you don't have any idea how to fix it.
Yeah.
You just know what the problem is. It's not like the hobby is large enough where you could usually just Google the problem and there's right there an answer. It takes so much trial and error, and a lot of it just turns into, you have to kind of know someone who's had that same problem and fixed it. There's not a really good source of information out there that says this, if this is the issue you're having, this is how you need to fix it. If you want to do something like this, this is how you do it. There's no manuals out there for how to do things. There's no troubleshooting guides. It's really just talking amongst other people in the hobby and trying to figure out what they've done right, and then just doing it yourself.
Yeah, so you're helping people overcome those painful aha moments where they're just struggling with something, and just, some little thing could make a big impact on whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've had, dozens of those moments, and it's fantastic. Like when I release a video talking about them, and everyone else is like, oh my God, I never thought about that. But now that you've said that, that makes so much sense. And now everything is so much easier.
Very cool. Motivation's a big part of being a content creator. So do you mind going into any times that you struggled with motivation and maybe some tactics or strategies you've used to overcome those struggles?
I wouldn't say I've ever really been like hit like any, I guess, ruts of being totally unmotivated. I've felt pretty motivated the entire time, but the issues I run into is more time management, especially back when I was finishing up my degree. I had, the last year and a half of that was very rough and time intensive, and trying to balance that with going out and flying and shooting videos and editing was really, really difficult. So I kind of just, realized that a lot of this content creation is stuff that I'm just sort of, doing on the side. It's not really that important. So kind of put it on the back burner. And once I was done, I was like, you know what? I've got all this time in the world. Go ahead and just start cranking out videos. And I really loved doing that. I love making videos. I love trying to come up with new, cool ideas of stuff to shoot. And I do like the editing process, unlike a lot of people I know. So for me, it was really easy to stay motivated because I was doing what I love to do and making videos that I liked, rather than doing stuff that I felt would be best for my social media presence.
Okay. So going to that a little bit further, what's your favorite part about being a content creator?
So far, I just love hearing about how the stuff that I've told people has helped them. That's kind of one of the biggest things and biggest motivational things that I've had, especially recently. Just hearing from people that and seeing people's progress in the span of weeks from just little things that I've helped people with, and little tips and tricks that I've told people either through videos or even just privately, because I get people private messaging me all the time with issues and things that they want to help fix and things they don't like, and if they any tips and tricks, and just spending 5 seconds being like, oh, here's something that I know, and then the next day they're like, oh my god, that was so much better, thank you so much. It really feels good just knowing that I've been helping people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's sort of the community aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's inspiring you most about your future? Like, do you have any goals, dreams? Like, what's inspiring you to move forward, and what do you see, or what would you like to see?
I don't exactly know the answer to that question, and I try not to come up with an answer for that, because every year or every 2 years I basically look back and be like, 2 years ago I never thought I would be where I am doing what I'm doing right now. So I've kind of developed a more just go with the flow kind of aspect right now, just kind of like basically just keep doing what I love to do and what I think is fun and what I think will hopefully continue me down this journey. And if it keeps working out, then I'll just keep going on and evolving and adapting. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't. And I've had a fantastic run and something to look back and cherish forever.
Yeah, I like that. You never know what doors will open. So if you don't make plans, you may have some unexpected things come up, and could be things you wanted much more than you could have planned.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of something that I've realized, if you asked me 3 years ago, like, oh, I want to be the best drone pilot in the world, and I want to be a full-time YouTuber just making FPV videos. And if you asked me 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh, I want to be a full-time drone racer, only going to races and doing stuff. And then, recently I've been, doing a little bit of everything, and even things like, I get part-time. I've been doing some software development side with one of the companies that basically writes the software that controls the drones and stuff like that. So I've been using my more aerospace-y background for stuff like that, and I've really enjoyed doing that as well. So, just kind of whatever comes up, if it seems like it's going to be fun, I'll go ahead and give it a shot.
All right. Yes. So for someone who isn't full-time with social media influencing, you've gathered, quite a bit of audience. You have very good engagement in your videos. You're doing really well for yourself, in my opinion. So what advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming an influencer if you met them on the street?
Honestly, I would just say that you just need to be yourself and be genuine. Everyone is different in their own way. And I feel like a lot of what people want to see is just people being themselves. It's not you being someone that you think people want you to be, because then you kind of come off odd and ungenuine. But if you really just be yourself and just show people what you like to do, talk about things that you like to talk about, show people what you're passionate about, whatever it is, there will always be people there who will support you and, understand you and basically follow and carry on with you on your journey.
That's very good advice. So I'd like to ask another piece of advice for someone who's maybe more established as a YouTuber. Do you have any kind of secret sauce that you think is useful that someone may not be fully utilizing? Because if you look at the number of subscribers you have and the number of views you get on your videos, really high engagement. It's above average. And just curious if you have any tips or tricks for people that are more established in the influencing community.
I definitely would say, like, one of the biggest things that I learned for example, getting better engagement is on YouTube specifically. First off, really figuring out what your audience wants. Like if your audience, for example, like, this is something I kind of learned the hard way. If your audience, like mine, likes FPV drone footage and they like things to do with FPV drones, doing something on your channel that isn't really focused on FPV drones doesn't really do well. And once you've kind of got that figured out, you've kind of got like a niche and a genre that you've got done, really just stick to that, even if it kind of seems like it may be getting a bit repetitive. And on top of that, once you have that figured out, things like thumbnails and titles for YouTube, like the absolute holy grail for getting better engagement. Because that's one of the biggest hurdles I've seen, at least in our little niche hobby, is there's so many people posting videos. There's just, it's such a large like influx of FPV videos and information that people can watch. And when people are kind of just like, scrolling through YouTube suggested stuff and scrolling through the Facebook groups and whatever, you really have to have something that does stand out immediately and catches their attention to then get them to actually, invest their time into whatever you've just made. And that really, really does make a pretty large difference in engagement rates. But also it's assuming you've at least followed your niche and done something that, you think people of your audience would enjoy watching.
Awesome. That's some really good advice. I appreciate you sharing that.
No problem.
Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your why. I'd like to end the podcast with giving you the opportunity to talk about your brand, your social accounts, if you have any affiliate links for FPV gear or anything else you'd like to share with our audience.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, if you guys want to follow me on my FPV journey, it's Wild Willy FPV on YouTube. It is at WildWilly_FPV on Instagram. And then I believe it's at WildWilly_FPV as well on Twitter. And if you ever feel like building an FPV drone, the description of all my videos, I have affiliate links for all of the gear that I use, all the way down to, like literally the nuts and bolts of the stuff that I put on my drones. If you ever feel like building one, you know where to look.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show and making time while you're out there in Australia. I hope you have a great remainder of 2019, and I look forward to seeing your influence keep on growing.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, that concludes this interview. I really appreciate you sticking around till the end of the show. Nick, thanks again for coming on the podcast. I want to go into a couple things that I thought were interesting that came out of this conversation. One of them is how Nick started out just creating videos just of flying his drone and then posting those online. He did that for about 3 years and didn't bring any of his personality. He wasn't talking in those videos. He just created videos with his drone, then uploaded them to the internet. After 3 years of doing that, he shifted to bringing more personality into his content. Because of this type of journey, it took him 3 to 4 years to feel like he had any influence. He didn't really feel like he was having much influence when he was just posting the videos, but as he brought more of his personality into it, people started to identify more with the type of content he put together, that he started getting contacted by people saying, thanks for putting this video up, it really helped me out, and that kind of thing. Something else I thought was interesting is how human Nick is. You know, it took him 5 to 6 attempts to get his first video when he created a vlog style video, just to like cut it down to something that he could make something out of. And he said it took 6 to 8 months of creating content with his personality before he started feeling comfortable with recording himself and creating content. I think that's something important to reflect on, because a lot of these influencers are battling with this when they first start out. You're not alone if you are starting out and you're having these issues. A lot of other people are doing that. So it seems like the common theme is to just sort of do it, create it, post it, and live with the fact that you're going to make mistakes and just keep doing it. And then at some point, you'll just start getting more comfortable with it. Nick gave a bunch of awesome advice. He said, be yourself, be genuine. Everyone is different in their own way, and people want to see people being themselves. He said that he really sees high engagement on his videos because he's just bringing himself. Another big piece of advice Nick shared was to really narrow down your niche and find out what your audience likes to see. Once you figure that out, stick to it. Even if you feel like it seems like it's getting repetitive, just stick to what you're good at, what your audience likes, and wait to see the results that you get from that. The last piece of advice I'm just going to reiterate is how important thumbnails and titles are. He said it's the holy grail for getting better engagement, because a lot of people are searching on YouTube. Most of us know it's the second biggest search engine on the internet. It's important to differentiate yourself to get that initial click. The biggest way to do that is your first impression, which is going to be your thumbnails and your titles. So it's really important to lock those in and do really well on those. Now, moving on to talk about my journey doing this podcast. At the end of the episode, I asked Nick off the record if he had any feedback, constructive criticisms, places where I could have done better, maybe areas I could have dove deeper into, and just any kind of feedback. All I got was positive comments. I couldn't get him to give me any constructive or negative comments. That means a lot to me. I mean, I know there's a lot there. You guys probably have a bunch for me. But anyway, that felt good because I feel like I'm improving. I feel like I did a good job. I feel like maybe in the beginning I struggled a little bit. I was sort of jumping maybe too deep too quickly and didn't really soften them up as much. I just feel like it was a little bit awkward in the beginning. And I think that was attributed to something that I was doing wrong. I would say about a third of the way into the interview, I feel like I got a rhythm down, and I feel like the rest of it was just an awesome interview. And I think we got a ton of value out of Nick. We all appreciate him coming on the show and sharing his why and sharing some of his how. Now, if you want to find out more about Nick and watch some of his awesome videos on YouTube, then just go to our website, whyinfluence.com, whyinfluence.com, and navigate to the 9th episode, and that's where we'll have all the show notes in here. We'll have links to all his social accounts and some more information on how you can find him and engage with him. While you're on the website, you might as well scroll to the bottom of the page and subscribe to the Why Influence newsletter. We don't really do too much with the newsletter right now, but we're going to be sending out some free stuff in the future. So just subscribe now, and whenever we start utilizing that more, you'll be happy that you subscribed. If you're new to the podcast, hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to join us on future episodes. If you've been here for a while and you haven't left us an iTunes review, please just take a moment to go leave us a review in iTunes. Those reviews help us get bigger and better guests on the show. And I think that's it. So, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.